Nathan Judah. I'm here with Wolves Reporter. It is Mr. Liam Keane. Liam, we've heard it from Mr. Gary O'Neill ahead of the big game. 5:30 kickoff against Newcastle United. Newcastle flying this season. But look, Wolves are buoyant at this moment in time. I think Gary O'Neill's bouncing, as he should be. They're playing some good football, and there's no fear factor there coming to this game.
No, and welcome back, by the way. It's nice to see you do some work.
Thank you very much.
So
it's good to be back.
There shouldn't be any fear factor. No, look, Newcastle are a very good side. Eddie Howe's done an excellent job there. They're flying high, as you just say, this season, and they obviously were last season as well. But they're only human. There's no reason Wolves should fear them. It's under the lights. It won't be dark when it kicks off, but it will be eventually during the game. And Molineux, some of the atmosphere's there. Under the lights, cold, wintry night. It's going to be horrible. Should play into Wolves' hands, I think. And the
atmosphere. It's not cold in Newcastle, is it at all?
I didn't mean with the play. I meant the atmosphere. The atmosphere. Okay. Look, Molineux is one of the best atmospheres in the country when it gets going, and it's got the makings of it tomorrow night. So all of that, I would like to think, plays towards his advantage. And you be smart about how you go after them, but you also try and play on the front foot and try and win the game.
Look, Newcastle have got injury problems themselves. They've obviously played in the Champions League midweek. This is definitely a game going to that Wolves will fancy getting a result, I think.
I think so. There's no reason why they shouldn't as well. It comes back to the same point. They're only human. There's nothing to fear here. Wolves aren't in a position where they're desperate for a result, are they? Where they are desperate for something out of this game because of the work that's come in the last 3, 4, 5 weeks. And beyond that, really, when Gary O'Neill first came in. So they've given themselves a bit of a buffer, if you will, to take the pressure off for this game. Even with Sheffield United coming away next week, which is a game that Wolves should win, regardless of that, the pressure isn't on this game, and that should leave Wolves in a position where they're able to be a bit free and play and get your best players, Hwang, Neto, Bellegarde if he plays, Cunha of course is scored the other day, Kalajdzic off the bench. You've got all these forwards that can make a difference.
But Liam, you can carry on from this, and when you're looking behind your shoulder, when you're looking at other people in the relegation zone, if you're in a relegation battle, you can't play with the same freedom as you can do when you're 12th, 11th, 10th in the league. So if they do win, then certain players who maybe have been bubbling under, you're starting to see them come to fruition, the likes of Matheus Cunha, these players who maybe haven't done as much as maybe some of the fans thought they would have done in terms of goals, but if you're 11th, 10th, 9th, 8th looking up, then maybe these players can be unleashed.
It's true, and it's a good point. But on the other side of it, at the same time, I'm playing devil's advocate to each other here, really. But Gary O'Neill also doesn't want the players to be too loose. And he's spoken about that actually before, about being too loose in their decisions and playing too freely and no structure. You need a little bit of it in the attitude, but maybe not the application, put it that way. Wolves need to be strict in the way they play, and Gary O'Neill's very detailed and regimented in that way. But if Wolves can find the blend between the two, that's the happy place, the centre of the Venn diagram. That's exactly what you want.
Centre of the Venn diagram?
Look at that.
Oh my goodness, set 3 maths. You colour them in?
I was not set 3.
No, you weren't.
Lower. That's the happy medium that Wolves are after. And I think they're actually working towards that, but at the same time, standards will slip occasionally. They will have bad spells. It's about coming through them.
One person who won't be available tomorrow is Joe Hodge.
Yes, sad news, to be honest. That he's had an ongoing issue with his shoulder. I think Gary O'Neill said it's been popping in and out a little bit too much, and they had to. Well, they made the tough decision to have surgery on it. So,
not greasing him up like a dammer.
No,
baby oil.
Unfortunately, not. And of course, O'Neill's not as he said in the press conference, not a shoulder surgery expert. But he did say, in his limited knowledge, he would estimate around 8 to 12 weeks or so, which seems a fairly sensible estimate. So, he's a player who's been pushing for minutes, desperate for minutes, speaking publicly about not getting minutes, and now he won't be getting them for a good while. So it's a blow for him, and if he doesn't play after that, which obviously is going to be difficult for him, then maybe a January loan move might be the best move.
Well, that's the thing that I was going to say as well. It's been frustrating, hasn't it, for someone who really came up the ranks last season, had a really good year, and he had the hamstring injury, of course, didn't he? He was in the Carabao Cup, I think.
Against Blackpool,
it popped up, and you knew obviously that was going to be 4 to 5 weeks. He's come back. He's now in the shoulder situation. Stop-start period for him, and you look to January, if he can get to full fitness, maybe I don't know, an FA Cup game or something like that under his belt. Then they will look to see if he can get 6 months maybe at another club. We're not saying that's going to be definite, but with the likes and the kind of the good players in central midfield at this moment in time, and Gary O'Neill's got plenty to choose from, I think that might be the best chance for him.
It seems that way, especially with how frustrated he is. He may have got a chance in these next few weeks, without the injury. The chances of him coming back from the injury and playing before January now, or playing a big part before January, seems very slim for him. So desperately sad situation because I'm a big fan of what he offers as a player. I think he's a very promising player, but he's a player who's also had injury issues when he was younger. I think when he first joined Wolves, he was out for around about 13 months with a back injury, and there's been a lot of difficult hurdles for him to overcome. And a January move to a good Championship side, or an equivalent of that level, I think we're doing the world a good.
We'll take him at Middlesbrough.
Yeah. You need some good players.
We'll go up the league, don't worry about that. Another player, Bellegarde, who obviously missed out through injury in the win against Bournemouth, is he back in contention?
He is. It's probably described it as touch and go, but Gary Neal seemed fairly hopeful that he would be involved.
From the bench most likely, though? From
the bench most likely. He did say it's unlikely to be able to play 90 minutes. Does that indicate maybe he's going to throw him into the start? It's possible. But I think it's unlikely, if I'm being brutally honest. A calf injury. He did say after the Bournemouth game it was a minor muscle injury, and then he's confirmed today it was a calf problem. So seems like he's ready and raring to go, hopefully, to be involved in some capacity.
Nelson Semedo is back from his ban, as is Mario Lemina, who goes straight back onto 4 yellow cards, of course. Do you think that both of those players will be recalled?
I do. I think so, yeah. I think Doherty did really well actually at Bournemouth. I thought Boubacar Traoré did okay, but in particular Tommy Doyle did really well. And it does give Gary O'Neill a lot of decisions to make. But I think it's too tempting not to go back to players that, for the most part, have done, and particularly Lemina, have done very well for Gary O'Neill this season. So I expect him to go back to that. But what will be interesting is whether he plays a 4 or 5. I didn't think we'd have this kind of conversation today, but he did sort of almost give away a little bit.
Did he give a little bit of a slip, do you think? I think he did as well.
Where he sort of batted a question away. I forget which question it was, but he batted that away and said, I'll be thinking more about which back 4 we play. And then he paused and went, or 5. So
could we see the return of the 4?
And that would indicate, if he does do that Bellegarde would start most likely, because he'd come into a midfield 3 probably as a 10 or a wide 10 behind Hwang or Neto, whichever side they play. So that's potentially the direction he'll go in.
And if he did, would that mean a very unfortunate drop for Totti Gomez back to the bench?
Most likely, unless he decides he needs an aerial presence and Aït-Nouri drops out and Totti Gomez plays left back. That's of course the other option. And you could sort of see why, because they do play in Newcastle with 3 midfielders, don't they? They play at the moment with Tonali not playing or being in the squad. It's been Longstaff, Joe Linton and Guimaraes, hasn't it? So whether Tonali plays or not, they seem to play those 3 or a 3. So you could see maybe he's going to match them up, or at least try and get Bellegarde in between those pockets of space in midfield where he can do some damage if he plays.
Newcastle's got a few issues, but like Gary O'Neill said, they're pretty much full strength in terms of their starting 11. Alexander Isak, probably the main person who's not going to be available, who might start. But in Callum Wilson, it was 50-50. They were flip-flopping last year, and you think that it's still a very, very strong side that Newcastle will have. Yeah,
I'm a big fan of Wilson. I think he's a really dangerous player, really clever striker, as well as someone who's got the pace and ability to get in behind a defence. So he's going to be dangerous. But from a physical point of view, he's not by any means weak, but he's not big. And I think that...
You can weight him. Will you back yourself to weights him?
Easy.
Bouncing off you?
Easy.
Is he? Who's he?
Easy.
Big Callum?
Especially on the jiu-jitsu.
Oh, mate.
Tell
him that.
I'm not
tell him that in the mix zone afterwards.
I'm not telling that, no chance.
Callum, you're watching.
He's not
watching.
He's not watching.
No, he's not watching.
But Dawson and Kilman, I would fancy them in a physical battle there. It's about the in behind for me.
Yeah.
Now, he has got the attributes to play all different parts of Wilson. I think he's a very, very good footballer. But that in behind seems the most dangerous aspect of his game, particularly against Wolves. So that's something I would highlight. Isak's a big miss for them, but Wilson's a very good replacement. Murphy obviously missing out, but they've got Alma on. They've got Gordon, who are playing pretty well at the moment. So they've got dangerous players regardless of the injuries, and they're going to be a difficult team to face.
Quickly going back to the formation, some people would say, probably including me, is that they've played great, they've won games as a back 3 or a back 5. Do you go back to a back 4? Hasn't really done too much with a back 4 under Gary O'Neill, but I understand that the formation is always fluid with him and it's game to game basis. Do you think that you'd be surprised if they did go to that when it's yielded so much success recently for them in a 3?
Surprise probably wouldn't be the word, because as you just said there, it's horses for courses. He will change it depending on the opposition. He will spot something tactically that he wants to try and exploit or give Wolves an advantage, and will change accordingly. So I wouldn't say surprise, but I would be a little bit wary purely because of how well Wolves have played in this 5. And you know, I'm a big fan of Totti Gomez, and any chance Totti gets to play, I'm happy. So
maybe it was a fraudulent reverse psych. Maybe he wanted to discuss it, but really he's going with the back three.
And if that is the case, you're welcome, Gary. We've done you a favour. Wary would be the phrase I'd use. But if he is going to go on the front foot and try and beat Newcastle, it could be exciting. Equally, it could be a major mistake that we're talking about in 24 hours time of Wolves losing the game.
Takes us on to predictions. I'll stick with the same one I did on the Wolves podcast. If you haven't listened to it, why? Make sure you download it now. I'm going to say it's a Desmond. It's Wolves 2. It's a Newcastle 2.
Well, I'll stick with Watson on the pod as well then.
This is
big.
This is exciting. If you haven't, this is going to shock you. Jaw dropping.
Well, I wouldn't go that far. 2-0 Wolves.
But comfortable, you said.
Comfortable 2-0 Wolves. And well, I wouldn't say comfortable. An early goal. A little bit of nervousness. They have a few chances, and then a late second to consolidate the 3 points.
It's Wolves against Newcastle. We shall see you there. Molineux tomorrow afternoon/evening for all the build up on this one. Make sure you log on to expressandstar.com.